Welcome to our podcast, Deep Dive, MTR Explores Subsea Technology. I'm your host, Rhonda Moniz, and this is your portal to the latest news on all things subsea technology. This episode is brought to you by the publishers of Marine Technology Reporter, the world's largest circulation publication serving the global scientific, defense, and offshore energy subsea market. For more information, visit marinetechnologynews.com. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Marine Technology Reporter's Deep Dive. And today I am talking with Dr. David Murrin. He is the Director General at the National Research Council in Canada. And welcome, Dave. I'm happy to have you on Deep Dive.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, let's just, as we say, dive right in and let's chat a little bit. I always like to ask people about their background. I'm always fascinated with how people get into the industry and, how they get started on their journey into, of their career and everything. So how did you get into the career that you have? Just explain a little bit about your background and what you do and sort of how you got there.
Sure. So it was certainly an atypical journey, but one that I'm really thankful for, and I think it's given me a well-rounded and diverse perspective. So I'm from Newfoundland and Labrador, and I studied ocean and naval architectural engineering at Memorial University of Newfoundland. And I was really fortunate in this respect because it's the only engineering program of its kind in Canada, and it's recognized as one of the best programs of its kind in the world. It happened to be in my backyard. And one of the strengths of the program is its heavy co-op component, where after your first year, you alternate between academic and work terms. So you get to see how engineering is applied in practice, and you get to bring that experience back to your academic terms. And these work terms can be all over the world. I had work terms in Scotland and Germany and in various parts of Canada.
Oh, wow.
And I was fortunate to have 2 work terms at the National Research Council in St. John's. And the work terms at the NRC, they really stuck with me because, we had this building filled with, the smartest people I'd ever met, really working together to solve these big engineering problems. And it was sort of everything that I dreamed of when I thought about being an engineer as a kid. But, I guess to everything there's a season, and it wasn't really the right time for me to join NRC at that time. So after I completed my degree, I worked for an oil field services company in Texas and later in New Mexico. But I didn't really feel like I was learning very much or using much of my training. So what I did, I contacted my all work term supervisor at the NRC, and he invited me to come back to Newfoundland and start graduate school. So I completed a master's and a PhD in ocean engineering, where I specialized in computational fluid dynamics and vortex-induced vibrations. And then I started teaching at the university. So I was getting more and more exposed to the research side of things. But I've always been sort of motivated by and very comfortable with change. So after a short while at the university, I left and I went to work in industry. And so I was working as an R&D director for a small consulting firm for a while. And then I was in charge of coordinating research and development for a major oil and gas operator in Newfoundland and Labrador. And that really exposed me to kind of the local research ecosystem. And I made a number of important contacts and friendships in that role that I maintain to this day. And then I led a new organization specializing in hydrocarbon research for the Arctic. And then I became the country manager for an oil and gas support services company. And then the oil industry collapsed and everything kind of changed. So I decided to reevaluate my career. And so fortunately, the NRC was hiring for a director of research, coastal river engineering in Ottawa. So I moved my family to Ottawa. And then 6 months in, the director general there retired, and I competed for the position, and I was appointed director general. And now the Ocean Coastal and River Engineering Research Center has offices in St. John's and Ottawa. So I was able to move the position back to Newfoundland and lead the research center where I had been a work term student 15 years previously. So it's an interesting route to get here.
Yeah, I guess so. But I find that the most interesting journeys are the ones that are not straightforward. You know what I mean? I find those to be always the most interesting. So, NRC, which stands for National Research Council, can you give us an overview? What are some of the key functions? What do you do there? How is it? How is NRC? How did it come about as an organization? If you could give us a little bit of background, that would be great.
So sure. The NRC basically it started as a wartime effort, so it's over 100 years old. And as a
Wow.
government of Canada organization, really it was set up to support research and innovation for more than a century, and it's taken on a variety of roles along the way, depending on the needs of the day. So right now we're kind of a supporter of innovation by Canadian companies. So we're kind of uniquely positioned at, I'd say, the intersection of industry and academia and government. And each year, our scientists, our engineers, and our business experts, they work closely with thousands of Canadian firms where we're tackling these important problems and we're helping bring new technologies to market. But we're also, I guess, we're an ally to some of Canada's brightest minds in research in this big pursuit of scientific excellence and breakthroughs and improving the lives of Canadians across Canada and around the world, I guess. We're also a steward, though, of very important and unique scientific facilities and equipment. And that really helps us align science and innovation with kind of important priorities and challenges. So, with respect to the Ocean, Coastal, and River Engineering Research Center, so OCRE, that I'm responsible for, we specialize in really understanding kind of the safety and performance of systems and infrastructure in harsh water environments. So we house these specialized, and large scale facilities and highly trained staff. We play an indispensable role as engines of innovation and scientific discovery in this sector.
And also, you have some very unique physical assets at our NRC. The offshore wave basin, and then you have a 200-meter test tank. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned earlier that we have offices located in St. John's and Ottawa. And in St. John's, the facilities, they specialize in kind of ships and other platforms in the ocean. So we have the world's largest ice tank. And so this is and by large, I mean, it's 90 meters long. So it's a large facility that's also very versatile. It's an ice modeling facility, and it's really been used to study dozens of challenges, including things like navigation in Arctic conditions and model tests of ice structure interactions, that sort of thing. Temperatures, they range down to minus 25 degrees Celsius. So basically, it's an indoor refrigerated tow tank facility that helps us simulate realistic Arctic and northern conditions. And we also have a 200-meter towing tank. And so this tank has a carriage that's quite fast, and it's fast enough to test high-speed vessels and also evaluate the performance of various marine systems, such as things like bulk carriers and patrol vessels, icebreakers, submarines, and that sort of thing. And then we also have in St. John's a very sophisticated offshore engineering basin. And so this facility, it can generate extreme sea states. So it includes wind and waves and multi-directions. And we've used that to test every offshore oil and gas platform in Canada. And our Ottawa facilities, they focus more on the coastal and the riverine work. So we have a coastal wave basin there, a multi-directional wave basin, and a large area basin, where we study wave and current interactions with structures, and shorelines, and ports, and harbors, coastal processes, and that sort of thing, including sediment transportation, scour, and beach response. And fortunately, we've also received new funding to recapitalize and renew our facilities. And so for us at OCRE, this includes investments in digital twinning, and also significant investments in our ice tank and our towing tank facilities.
So NRC, you guys really known for your expertise and not just the physical facilities, but your expertise in those areas. And you mentioned the offshore wave basin and the test tank and um, those areas. Can you elaborate a little bit on those different areas of expertise that are unique to NRC?
So yeah, the physical facilities, while they're impressive and absolutely necessary, what they are they're just some of the many tools that we use to kind of help our partners find answers to their problems. So really, in addition to our physical modeling expertise, we also provide numerical modeling and full-scale field testing. So we spend a lot of time out in the field, either in the Arctic or on the water, instrumenting vessels and testing them, that sort of thing. But what's really important is the people that work here. They have kind of the expertise and this incredible drive and really the capacity to use whatever tools are necessary. And in many cases, they create new ones. And our long history of studying problems in kind of model scale, full scale, but also numerically, it gives us a breadth of expertise and data for the Canadian context that's very unique. And it's really hard to come by. And we lean on that experience on a daily basis.
And could you talk a little bit about any collaborations that the NRC is involved in?
Well, this is really an important question, and maybe I could give you an example of a collaboration project that's really important to us to really illustrate how we go about this. So I just kind of alluded to a second ago, for decades, we provided physical testing for industry and government clients, really to optimize the design of ships and offshore structures and coastal infrastructure. And so over the years, we've continued to upgrade our data collection. So a typical test for us would look at, collecting all of our conventional performance data, in addition to high resolution motion tracking and above and underwater imaging systems to capture all the fine details of every experiment. And we also have these field and full scale data that I mentioned, and also data generated from numerical simulations. So we're now at a point where we're looking to leverage these large data sets to train AI models, really to help with decision support technologies and make ships safer and more efficient. And what happened was we learned early on that as comprehensive as our full scale data sets are, and they do have gaps in them, as you can imagine. And they often lack examples of ships operating in the most extreme conditions. So we identified an opportunity to leverage our decades of data sets, and most importantly, our rich network of academic and industry researchers to kind of solve this limitation and try to fill in these gaps. And so maritime digital twins are these high fidelity models of ships and their environments. And we can simulate various operations to help fill out the missing data. But the models that are the numerical models that are developed, they need to be first developed and then validated against real data. But as you can imagine, that would take years to do on our own, to develop the whole technology and then validate it and then put it in practice. And we need solutions faster than that. So we said, a collaborative approach here would make a lot more sense. So we formed a partnership with Memorial University and a local small medium enterprise, Virtual Marine, to pursue this digital twin technology together. And we all sort of bring something to the table. So the university will bring in expertise in human factors research related to really the implementation of novel technologies aboard ships. And the Virtual Marine are providing us with really privileged access to their simulation technology, on which we can implement our models and prototype our technologies. So we have this new digital twinning facility that'll be used for various purposes, such as route planning through ice and other risk assessments, and search and rescue activities, and disaster response. And another benefit coming out of it is the extensive amount of hardware as part of this facility will also give our researchers and collaborators access to unprecedented computer power which we can use then for research beyond digital twinning. So things like complex computational fluid dynamics problems, or training machine learning algorithms. So that's just one example of the kind of collaborations that we undertake.
So speaking of, all the new technologies, and you guys are doing some really incredible work. Could you talk a little bit about some of the emerging trends and technologies and, marine and offshore research that maybe NRC is focusing on or involved in?
Yeah, sure. And the timing is really good. We just finished our 5-year strategic plan, so for 24 to 29, and this is across all of NRC, but also my research center. And the plan will guide the NRC as we advance and support important innovation and research. And it outlines our commitments to Canada, to our partners, and to ourselves. And it focuses on significant challenges facing the country. And it reflects more than a year's worth of engagement across our organization and with our stakeholders, about where there are opportunities for us to have the most impact and how we help position the Canadian industry for growth, and where we're positioned to help address key challenges. So, given the increasing threat of climate change and the growing need for safe, secure, and efficient marine transportation in Canada, we are continuing to focus our work on protecting Canadians and coasts and on supporting next generation transportation in harsh environments. And so, what we've done is we've identified 4 research pillars, and these include resilient shores, zero impact ships, safe operations, and secure Canada. And so, for resilient shores, this pillar is really focused on climate adaptation solutions, really to mitigate the impacts of weather extremes and other environmental factors on shorelines and communities and related infrastructure, including ports and harbors. Just as an example, flooding. We see a lot of flooding in the news lately, and everyone's affected by flooding. And so we're working with several Canadian municipalities to understand their capacity to handle extreme flooding. A lot of these cities just weren't built for this level of water and flooding. And so we're conducting physical and numerical modeling of things like storm sewers and flood diversion structures. And we're also looking into the implementation of nature-based solutions to help address coastal erosion. And so that's resilient shores. And under our zero impact ship pillar, that's focused on helping really to achieve the decarbonization and emission reduction targets of the Canadian marine fleet. So as an example, we're collaborating with major Canadian universities and Canadian ferry companies to optimize fuel performance along a given route using machine learning techniques and that sort of thing. And our pillar on safe operations, that's focused on the performance evaluation of ships and platforms and other equipment. And this has historically been, really our bread and butter work in St. John's. We work with a lot of companies to ensure that their products perform as intended, and using our world-class testing facilities we just described and our staff. And some examples of the work here would be things like maritime autonomous surface ships in harsh environments, so ice, wind, waves, rain, drizzle, and fog, the sort of things that are suited to Canada and Newfoundland. And a lot of the work under this pillar involves physical model testing in our ice tank or towing tank or offshore engineering base. And finally, our 4th research pillar, Secure Canada, that's really focused on supporting the operational readiness needs of the Canadian Armed Forces in the Arctic. And so the vast majority of the research conducted under this pillar is done for the Canadian military and the U.S. military. There are some projects that involve Canadian and U.S. companies, and what we're doing in a lot of these projects under this pillar is we're developing new test facilities, we're conducting experiments and trials on Arctic platforms, developing numerical models related to Arctic platform performance and operation.
And so NRC is obviously making great contributions to the maritime industry in Canada. Do you see or foresee any additional pillars going forward being added?
Yeah. Well, right now there's a lot of interest in the ocean around the world right now. There's things like the UN Decade of the Ocean, the various federal initiatives. We have a blue economy strategy, national shipbuilding strategy, the ocean protection plan, and in general, there's an improved understanding of the importance of the ocean on our daily lives. The world is also becoming increasingly digitized. And this will manifest itself in ocean technology as well. Ocean technologies, they have a very long, long history. And they don't typically advance as quickly as some other sectors. But I think the time is now to grow the ocean tech sector. And now there is the increased lens of environmental protection and climate change and everything we do. So I think the sector will have to evolve accordingly. In our research and our collaborations with industry and academia, we'll really be continuing to lead the charge as the sector evolves. So I think we will probably be adding new pillars as we develop the technology or as the technology gets developed in the ocean sector.
As the blue economy grows globally, Marine Technology Reporter has the world's largest audited subsea audience. MTR offers insights and analysis from researchers, innovators, and thought leaders in ocean subsea commerce, defense, and academia. At MTR, we always stay one step ahead. For more information on how you can stay on the cutting edge, go to www.marinetechnologynews.com. It's incredible how things are changing, and in the innovation that's going on in the industry is pretty remarkable. So, Dave, can you tell us, what motivated you to pursue a career in marine and offshore research to begin with?
Well, a few things really. Firstly, and this is my own personal opinion, but from my perspective, really contributing to our intellectual evolution is it's one of the greatest contributions you can make to humanity, really. And if I can look back at the end of my life and say I've contributed to the knowledge base and that we know more as a result of the work that I was involved with, I'll feel like, the time I spent here was well spent. Research advances us as a species. So, otherwise, what are we really doing here? But secondly, marine and offshore research was a natural choice. Newfoundland and Labradorians have a really intimate relationship and a healthy respect for the ocean. And just about everything in our lives is affected by it. Newfoundland was founded because of the fishery. So, the fog and the ice and the icebergs, the many people that earn their living from the ocean, it's just kind of a part of who we are. And, we live in the harshest marine climate on Earth. And we've had more than our fair share of disasters, including the Ocean Ranger, Titanic, not to mention far too many occurrences of small vessels and crews not coming home. So I've always been motivated by solving problems and discovering new things. And while there is a long tradition of humans working with the ocean, we're still mystified by it. And, we can't control it. The ocean is fascinating. It covers 70% of the Earth, and it's the climate regulator for our whole planet. But at the same time, maritime transport is essential to the world's economy. I think 90% of world trade is still carried out by sea, and people and communities living near the coast are the first ones to see the effects of climate change and also the unfathomable power that the ocean wields. So working in a field where I can take on some of the world's biggest challenges and at the same time help ensure that our seafarers come home safely, it's really a no-brainer for me.
So, can you elaborate a little bit on what role the NRC plays in advancing the objectives of Newfoundland and in Labrador, with regard to the maritime sector, the offshore energy, and, subsea cluster?
Yeah, sure. So the people of this province, they really have a profound respect and appreciation for the ocean. And there's this ecosystem that's continuously nurturing it. And so This includes training. So as I mentioned earlier, the university has the best ocean engineering program in North America. There's also the Murrin Institute, and that's kind of world renowned for education and training and applied research. And on top of the training, though, within probably a 5-minute drive, we have a collection of the most comprehensive and leading edge research facilities in the world. And I think most importantly in this cluster is we have an emerging entrepreneurial spirit in the community with access to the best expertise in ocean research. And it's important to realize that there has been a lot of ocean technology innovation in the province over the years. And this was sort of propelled by the university, the National Research Council. And importantly, it was also accelerated by the R&D requirements that were mandated in what's known as the Atlantic Accord. And that sort of ensures that a portion of the revenue generated from the oil and gas industry in the province is reinvested into education and training in the province. So what we have is a very stable kind of long-term research funding model that will continue as long as a lot of these operations continue. And so that allows us to nurture innovation through training, early stage R&D, and then commercialization.
So, can you provide some examples of successful collaborations that have maybe benefited the industry?
Yeah, so I could spend the rest of this interview talking about our successful collaborations with industry. And so, rather than give examples, I'd encourage your listeners to visit our website and maybe to read through some of the success stories that we've posted there. And these include examples of projects where we've worked with Indigenous communities and projects where we've collaborated with Canadian SMEs to protect shorelines or advance their technologies. There's examples there of us working with other government departments to make ice navigation safer. We've developed design guidance, and codes, and tools. And we also regularly contribute to standards development, for example, with the International Maritime Organization. So we really punch way above our weight. And I think our client satisfaction surveys, they sort of speak to this. Just as an example, last year our survey results indicated that around 95% of our clients were satisfied with the work that we did with them. And 85% reported positive benefits and impact to their business by working with the NRC. And so, why do people choose to work with the NRC? And over the last 5 years, it's they've recognized the expertise of our researchers and consistently stated as the greatest reason for clients to choose the NRC over other organizations. So I think that's something we should be really proud of, not only at the NRC, but also something that Canadians should be really proud of. We have this institution built in the Canadian fabric that's over 100 years old, and it's dedicated to advancing science and supporting government policy and supporting business innovation, and ultimately improving the lives and prosperity of Canadians.
During the time that you've been at NRC, during your tenure, can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges you've come up against and what you've done to find solutions or overcome those challenges?
Sure. I guess one of the experiences I'm probably most proud of is really the effort we put into building a trusting and collaborative relationship with Memorial University. And so this was a bit of a challenge. This relationship is very important to me because of the influence it had on me from my days at the university as a student. And I really wanted to ensure that we continue to inspire people to take on the challenge of ocean research and to see the value that collaboration can bring. So one of the strongest collaborations we've had over the last little while has been with Memorial University. We collaborate with researchers, we hire work-term students, and in many cases, we co-supervise graduate students. So 5 or 6 years ago, the NRC launched an initiative really to co-locate researchers from both universities and the NRC, really to drive research excellence in areas where Canada can excel. And so these are known as collaboration centers. And in June of 2019, we were successful in opening the Carlick collaboration space between Oakry, NRC, and Memorial University. And the focus here is on increasing our impact in ocean engineering, bringing researchers together, and also developing highly qualified personnel and inspiring students into the ocean sector. So you may or may not be aware that the Carlick, that was a sailing ship that was captained by Newfoundland's Bob Bartlett for the Arctic. And 1 month into the journey, it became trapped in ice and sank. And so today, for us, Carlick is, it's really a symbol and a reminder of the challenges associated with operating in harsh climates and the innovative solutions needed by Canada's top researchers. And so the Carlick Collaboration Centre so far has been very successful. I'm really proud of it. We've co-authored over 30 publications together. The NRC has provided more than $1 million in-kind investment, along with access to facilities, staff, and we've co-supervised and graduated many students. But one of the most important objectives of the Collaboration Centre has already been achieved, and that was building a trusting and collaborative relationship with Memorial University. And that's further evidenced by our partnership in MUN's new harsh environment research facility. So this is a new facility that's being developed. It's a really exciting facility. It's funded through various different mechanisms, but really our collective vision and our commitment to working together, it resulted in NRC providing land for the facility, and in return, guaranteed access and representation on research steering committees, and of course, collaborative opportunities. So this is just a really nice indication of the new relationship that we have with the university and all the ways that we can collaborate into the future. So I'm really proud of that.
And we've obviously these collaborations are really important, and you work a lot with students. What advice would you give to students getting into the industry? Do you have any advice for them on what to maybe you could elaborate a little bit on what are some of the important things that they need to know about getting into the maritime industry moving forward? Any sage words of advice?
Yeah, well, I guess in terms of partnerships and collaborations with other research institutions and that sort of thing, the big thing is we have to find a way to come together, to use all of our strengths and our resources, really to capitalize on this accelerated pace of scientific discovery and technological change. There are a lot of challenges on the road ahead. Like I mentioned a couple of times, mitigating and adapting to the effects of climate change, but also, really bolstering the competitiveness of the Canadian businesses, really in an increasingly uncertain and complex global economy. So what we really have to figure out a way to do is to collaborate more on big problems together. So people have to be ready to take on these challenges and work towards achieving a more innovative and prosperous Canada together.
So if there's a company or out there or anyone that wants to collaborate with NRC, how would they go about that?
Well, quite simply, just reach out. Interested parties can contact us via email or telephone, and we're happy to work with anyone. I just like to reiterate, I guess, that with our staff and our facilities, we're really, we're transforming groundbreaking concept into these tangible outcomes. And we're looking to find practical and sustainable solutions to complex problems. And the work that we're doing, it's really aiming to improve the performance and the safety of marine operations, meet the challenges of climate change, but also to protect infrastructure and property and people from severe weather events and other environmental risks. So if any of these things are of interest, just reach out and we'd be delighted to speak with you.
So thank you so much, Dr. Murrin, for being on the show, being on Deep Dive today. It's fascinating work you are doing at NRC. I'm up near Boston, so we're kind of there's this nice little relationship between Canada and Boston. We have a fondness for each other. So it's always a pleasure talking to my Canadian brethren, I guess it is, and especially in the obviously in the maritime brethren as well. So thank you so much for being on the show today and taking the time to talk to us on Deep Dive.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate any opportunity to talk about my job. I've got the best job in the world, so anytime. And I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, thanks. And you guys are doing great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
This episode of Deep Dive was brought to you by the publishers of Marine Technology Reporter. Interested in being a guest or a sponsor for Deep Dive? For more information about this podcast and many other opportunities for your company to stay informed and in the know, go to marinetechnologynews.com. And as usual, hit like and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. See you again on the next Deep Dive.